Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Dom from Lensprotogo and Lens Rentals, and welcome back to the channel. I'm very excited because today I have with me a very special camera. It's the Hasselblad X1DII 50C. The 50C is an elegantly crafted medium format camera from Hasselblad with a 50 megapixel sensor. I mean, look at that thing. It's enormous. But in this video, I think we're gonna figure out that this thing isn't just a resolution beast. It is an all-around brilliantly done camera that blends the modern innovations of digital photography with the classic Hasselblad experience. So in this video, we're gonna cut right to the chase by going over this camera physically, talking about sort of what's going on the inside of this thing, and I'm gonna show you a lot of stills and even some video I was able to take on the X1D Mark II. So with all of that out of the way, let's check this thing out. All right, starting from the top of this camera, you can see this orange shutter button right here. Below that is your mode dial, which you can just press in to lock in place and it becomes flush with the camera. Next to that is a button for focus mode and one to toggle between ISO and white balance. And below that is a power button. Finally, over here, you've got a hot shoe on top of the viewfinder. Moving down to the back of the camera, we have an awesomely huge 3.6-inch touchscreen LCD here with 5 buttons that run along the right side. You get a nice bulky viewfinder that's really nice and bright in there, but you've got to adjust this diopter right here if you're using it, and we'll talk about focusing on this thing in a second. Next to that are focus lock and focus detect buttons, and finally, your rear dial is right here. Not really much going on the right side, just this whole rubber grip area that wraps all the way around the camera. On the left side, you get 2 doors for your inputs and outputs. The top is for 2 SD card slots, and the bottom door is for headphones, mic jack, and a USB-C port. The only thing you'll find on the bottom here is 1/4 20 thread and the latch to unlock the battery. This is one of those battery systems where you have to release it using the lever and then give it a slight press to unlock it fully. All right, finally for the front of this camera, you have your front dial and an autofocus assist light, 2 internal microphones up here, and down here you have a custom function button as well as this chrome lens release pin, which gives it a really vintage charm. The XCD lens system uses 9 pins, which you see right here. And finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, the sensor. This is a 50 megapixel sensor that's roughly 44 by 33 millimeters large, capable of 16-bit color depth and 14 stops of dynamic range. All right, so there's your breakdown of what's going on with this camera physically. Now, I'm gonna roll a bunch of sample stills I was able to get with the X1D Mark II while I talk about sort of what's going on with it internally and just share some of my general experiences shooting on this camera. So I'll start with the color and tones. With the X1D Mark II, we're getting Hasselblad's own unique color science, and that is truly one of the biggest strong suits of this camera. The tones you achieve straight out of camera are what you strive to get with other cameras after meticulous editing. The color rendition is really true as well, and you can push the saturation and vibrancy on the whole spectrum pretty evenly. The recovery from these Hasselblad raw files is pretty good too, not amazing, but it is evenly weighted between the shadows and the highlights. You're able to recover both pretty much evenly. All right, quick note about the optics. These XCD lenses have a leaf shutter built in for super fast flash sync at up to 1/2000th of a second. And Paired with the enormous sensor of the X1DII, an f3.5 behaves much more like an f2.8. The system just lets in so much light, and that's why you get such amazing focus roll-off, like for example right here. Not all perfect though with these lenses, I have to say. I did notice pretty bad longitudinal chromab on the glistening water in these geese pics here. Since we're on the topic of focusing, I gotta say that this is one of the difficult areas for the X1DII. I'll put it this way, this camera has autofocus, but it's not an autofocus camera, to put it nicely. So you're much better off manually focusing, although there's one downside there too. The peaking isn't very accurate. There were several times I thought I could rely on the focus peaking, but when I looked at the image later, I found out that the focus was way off. So in my opinion, the only way to truly guarantee focus on this camera is by magnifying and then focusing, which is easy enough using this awesome touchscreen, but you have to have the time to do that. Another quick note I want to sneak in here, if you're using Hasselblad's Phocus Software, Focus with a PH, it's a nice tool to have that offers full camera control, but it could be a bit slow if you were relying on it in a fast real-time studio session. And the live viewing is a bit laggy too. All in all though, it's not a bad workflow for an all-in-one raw processing and camera tethering. Although when I did this headshot session, I realized that I had it set so that it didn't save to the card on the camera for some reason, just locally to my computer. So for a second I thought I lost it all. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Alright, so final thoughts on the Hasselblad X1DII 50C. Well, look and feel wise, 10 out of 10. This camera gives the user the impression that they are wielding a sophisticated imaging tool, not just a camera. But the point of the 50C was to encourage hybrid usage in and out of the studio. But in my opinion, the true environment for this camera is in a studio setting. It's certainly possible to get a stunning image from the X1DII just shooting out and about, but it's certainly more challenging. You can't be fooled by the speed of these XCD lenses either. From my experience, an f3.5 lens was much shallower than expected, and that matters because missing focus isn't a hard thing to do on this camera. However, if you do nail that focus, I'd say there's a pretty great chance that that shot is a winner because Hasselblad over-delivered on the image quality with the 50C. Alright, so that's pretty much going to wrap it up on this video talking all about the X1D Mark II medium format camera from Hasselblad. So, as always, if you have any questions about this camera or any insights about what you would shoot on a medium format camera from Hasselblad, drop a comment in the comment section below and we'll start a discussion. Also, if you happen to like this video, you can hit it with a thumbs up button down there too to let me know you liked it. Finally, if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. And if you are subscribed, you can hit that little bell button down there too to be notified whenever we post new content, which is every week. So take care, and we'll see you in the next one.